So we introduced action creators in the last lectures, and you learned that they are especially useful when working with asynchronous code, because together with redux func, that middleware, we could basically find a place to execute our asynchronous code when dispatching an action and block that original dispatching to then just dispatch another action, all that handled by that redux func middleware, once our asynchronous task is done. Now with that, we got this new actions file, which not only holds our action types, so the unique identifiers, so to say, but also all these creator functions which use these identifiers. Obviously, our file here in the demo project isn't that big. We can of course simply stick to one file. But we also split up the reducers into counter and result. And you typically also do that for actions as your application grows. And you're going to see that in the Burger Builder project. Therefore, I'll create new files here. I'll create a counter.js file and I'll create a result.js file. So just like in the reducers folder, now for actions. I'll rename the actions file to action types because here I now only want to export these unique identifiers so that I have one file providing all the action types my application knows. And theoretically, you could of course also split that up into multiple files. Now I'll take my action creators and put them into their respective files. So for the counter, I'll take the increment, decrement, add, and subtract action creator, cut it from the action types file, and put it into the counter file. Now of course, this reference to this constant won't work anymore because that constant now lives in a different file. So I should import that, and I will import everything as action types from /action types, which allows me to now set up my types by accessing action types and then the constants which we do export in that file. I'll do the same for decrement and of course also for add and subtract. Like this. Finally also for subtract. So that's the updated counter.js file with the action creators for the counter related actions. Of course, I'll do the same for the result. Take my save result, store result, and this delete result creator. So that also includes the asynchronous one. And then also import everything as action types from this action types file. And with that, we can also use the action types we import to assign the right types here. So store result. In store result itself, I just have my asynchronous code dispatching save result in the end. And in delete result, I of course also want to dispatch delete result. So now I got my action creators outsourced. The action types file now only contains my action types and exports them. Now I also want to have one file exporting all my action creators. So I'll create an index.js file here. And in there, I'll actually use a syntax you might have not seen before. I'll just export something from a file. I can do that. So I don't even import it in this file. I just have one file, the index.js file, which groups all exports from separate files. So that in the end, I can always point to that file to import something from any of the files I'll point to in that file here. So let me quickly do that. Let's export something from the counter.js file. And that something actually will be a list of everything this file does offer, like add, subtract, increment, and decrement. And this really is just an advanced feature or some advanced usage or setup of the project to handle bigger projects with lots and lots of actions and action creators, of course. It's overkill for this demo project, but it will make more sense later when we reach our Burger Builder. And I want to teach you the concept right now already. So I'll also export something from the result file here that will be store result and it will be delete result. Save result is not exported here, though I could of course also export it, but I'll never need it in any other file, so I won't include it into my grouping. Now what this allows me to do is to later just import from index.js and actually import from any of these two files which I group in this index.js file. Now that's just a tiny improvement to make our files even a bit leaner. Now, what I also need to do is I need to adjust my reducer file where I do import these action types. So in counter.js, where I import action types, that now lives in a action types.js file in the actions folder. The same adjustment needs to be made in the result reducer. There I also now import from the action types file in the actions folder. And finally, in the counter where I dispatch, here I refer to action creators, and that now actually should point to the index.js file, so /index. Let's quickly restart npm start to see if it really has problems or just is stuck in the rebuild process. And we do find an issue in the counter.js file. It doesn't like my imports here, action types. Oh, because I mistyped here, it's actions. That's a typo in the file name. The file name should be action types. Now with the file name changed, I need to change all my imports in the other action files too. There I was referencing the wrong file. With all that adjusted to really point to action types.js, we should have a working application again, just as before with asynchronous storage available. Now, however, with a bit more split up action creators over multiple files. As I said, for this demo project, overkill, but definitely something you should keep in mind for bigger projects, because what it allows you is that you have files with only a few action creators in each file, which makes it easier to find that action creator you wanted to change or check. So this is why I chose that setup, and it is something I wanted to show you for your bigger projects.